Welcome back to Voice Up for the Voiceless. I'm your host, Angela Williams, and I'm flying in solo today. Christa had a sick baby, woke up with a fever, so she's not going to be able to be with us on this interview, but I'm very excited. We have a great guest on today, and the topic that we're going to be discussing is pornography, which is a horrendous evil that is attacking our youth and adults and impacts people's lives in horrible ways and really distorts God's plan for a beautiful intimacy and sex. So, Voice Up for the Voiceless, if you're tuning in for the first time, is a podcast that addresses the dark and deep issue of child sexual abuse and exploitation. And of course, pornography is a big part of that. So, thank you for tuning in. Pray you stay with us to the end. We've got a great promo for you, and just welcome. And we are excited to welcome our guest today. And his name is Rob Stoddard. And Rob is the church outreach specialist for Covenant Eyes. And he's going to tell us a little bit about himself and a little bit about what Covenant Eyes is. So, welcome to the show, Rob. We're so glad to have you today.
Hi, Angela. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it and appreciate the work you guys are doing for sure.
It's tough.
It
It's so
is.
tough. So,
It
Rob,
is.
tell us our audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So, gosh, been a Christian all my life, but was in business for, gosh, 20, 21 years, 22 years. And then later in life, God called my wife and I and two of our three kids to the mission field. And so we left everything, went to Japan as missionaries for about 10 years. And then came back and looking for work. Didn't want to go back into business. Covenant Eyes just felt fit the need for ministry, and I'd worked with the church so much, and had worked with men's ministry and covered this issue at different times, and so just a great fit. And so I've been there about 7 years now, and working primarily with the church, helping them just be equipped in understanding this issue, having resources. And so I talk with pastors week in and week out, and attend our conferences and those kinds of things. But
Wow.
so it's a huge issue, not only in our church, but everywhere. But so glad to be on and share a little bit today.
So give us a 32,000 elevation pitch on Covenant Eyes, and then we'll drill down as we get through the interview. And then I want to move from there to really talk about the issue of pornography and how big of a problem it is in our society.
Yeah, good. Yeah, Covenant Eyes, we're a Michigan company. We've been around about 25 years, really dedicated to helping individuals, families, and the church deal with this issue of pornography. We make a number of resources for every demographic, mainly individual resources for men, for women, couples, families, in church leaders. The main thing we've always done is accountability software. We believe accountability is the key to helping somebody come out of a struggle with pornography. That software is set up on all your devices. It does a couple things. There's a filter block on it, but the main thing is you set up an accountability partner who's going to see and get reports of the things you're looking at, and notification if anything inappropriate's looked at. And it's really through that accountability relationship that somebody walks alongside, not just seeing that you're doing something wrong, but really just encouraging you, helping a person just really figure out the struggle that they're having in how and why how they can fix it. And so we're happy to be here. We're happy to share that message and just help people be aware of this issue, because it's such a quiet, shameful and private issue. Most people are suffering in shame in this, or in silence, and so we just want to shed light on that, and certainly just help people come forward and get help.
Well, behind closed doors, yeah, and people suffer in isolation and in silence. And child sexual abuse, it really distorts sex for a child. And when you're sexually abused as a child, you become almost hyper sexualized.
Right.
So sometimes that leads into a pornography addiction. And then so often perpetrators use pornography for children to sort of coerce them into the sexual abuse by showing
Mhm.
them things. And then, of course, I speak from time to time to churches, and the last time the statistics that I pulled was that pornography is a $97 billion industry. Does that ring true with some of the research that you look at?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, approaching 100
100
billion
billion
industry, but
dollar industry.
yeah.
It's just heartbreaking, and then I also saw a statistic that 97% of the pornography that is produced now involves children and also involves bestiality. Do you can you speak to any of those, statistics?
Yeah, the bestiality, I'm not sure about the stats on that one, but certainly, pornography is just ripe with, child pornography as well as, violence and abuse, physical abuse. Most often it's against women, but increasingly men. So this genre that people can access now is just, horrid. Now too, with the AI, coming online, child pornography has exploded. Before they had to actually find a victim to use in this. Now they're creating child pornography with
Mhm.
AI, and so that's really exploded the availability of child pornography online. And so yeah, those stats, I don't know exactly what study that is, but certainly don't disagree with those.
Well, let's start with just the definition of pornography for someone who's tuning in that just is just kinda shocked about what we're saying. Let's start there.
Yeah, yeah. We define it, and I think the majority of people define that as anything that is used to sexually stimulate a person. So it doesn't have to be nudity, just nudity, or the act of sexual intercourse. Many things can be stimulating to an individual, and so anything they're using to do that, we can classify as pornography.
And how easy is it to access pornography?
Uh, as easy as turning on your phone. Unfortunately, our devices, our internet world is saturated with that. It is the most search for piece of information or image out there today. It's there 24/7. I've forgotten the number of purveyors of pornography, but it's in the hundreds of thousands of sites, and that's growing exponentially every day and every week. More and more sites are being added that offer pornography out. The sad thing is it's infiltrated everything in our culture. Any site you're looking at, social media, any site is beginning to be saturated with pornography. Their algorithms are pulling, not necessarily intentionally, but they're pulling images that just continue to raise the level of sexual images that somebody would see. May start with somebody just in a bikini or scantily clothed, and it quickly progresses and delivers more and more of that and deeper. And so just somebody, um, whether they're looking for it or not, on social media, on the internet, is not just they're getting attacked. They're having this fed to them whether they want it or not. And so yeah,
I had
it
a
is
horrific
everywhere.
image pop up on my Facebook, and I just, you close your eyes, you're trying not to look at it, it's like, where did this come from? And you almost
Yeah.
like you don't wanna click on it, but you want it to go away, and you
Yeah.
kinda don't know what to do. How easy is it for our children to access pornography online?
Uh, just as easy as that. Again, they don't have to be searching for it. It just pops up and continues to get progressively worse. Matter of fact, the stat is over 50% now of kids are exposed unintentionally in that
Over
in that way.
50%.
Yeah.
And tell us, how pornography impacts, men, and we kinda think, well, it's just men watching pornography, but I know from the work that I've done that it's not, it's men and women, and how does pornography impact, um, our adults and youth?
Yeah, that's a good question. So let me just start with the stats. The stats, according to Barna, last year did a major study. Uh, about 78% of men struggle with looking at pornography on a regular basis. 44% of women, which that's up about 11% from just 5 or
Wow.
6 years ago, are also struggling with use of pornography. And then if you look at specific demographics, I mean, the average age of exposure for our kids is between 8 and 11 years old,
Oh my
depending
goodness.
on the study you're looking at. But it's not surprising. I mean, 50% of our kids are on the internet by age 5, have a presence on the internet. 72, 75% of kids have a smartphone by age 12. And so the stat is 90% of kids are going to be exposed to pornography by age 16. So, when we talk with parents, it's not a matter of if, it's just when.
When.
And, um, it's just so damaging for anyone, for men, for women. Um, but I think with so many people being exposed at a young age, it just compounds the issue. As young kids, and you probably know all this, they have what's called mirror neurons, which
Mhm.
helps a kid, helps us as young people to learn. So we're able to mirror things we hear and see, and we're able to remember those things much deeper with these increased mirror neurons. And so as kids are seeing and exposed to pornography, it's just deeply embedding, ingraining those images and training our brains to be triggered or responsive to that. And so as we begin to get into teenage and young adult, we're carrying these things into life, and we've trained our brains to look for this and be triggered by it. And so that's why it's such a hard thing to. It's just something you just can't turn off. We really have
Yeah.
to be intentional about getting this out of our life and out of our brains and our minds. And you know, there's all kinds of myths that people believe. If we get married, this is no longer going to be a problem, but that's not true. The
Speak to the
stats.
addiction part of this. Speak to the addiction part of this, which I think is so
Yeah,
important.
yeah, yeah, and many people just don't realize or understand that pornography is addictive, or can be addictive in nature. It's habit forming, it's compulsive. It starts out really with our brain chemistry and our neurochemistry in our brain. It operates the exact same way that drugs and alcohol do. A series of chemicals are released as we are stimulated by pornography. The first of all is dopamine, which we get dopamine spikes over many things. It's that kind of gotta have it feeling, that focus on something, in a number of different things. Testosterone is released that heightens our sexual interest and
Mhm.
desires. Norepinephrine, which kind of burns those memories into our brain. It's part of the fight or flight process in our brains. Things like oxytocin, which is a kind of a bonding hormone, similar to what's released when a mother has a newborn baby laid on her chest. Oxytocin is released that bonds two people together, and now we're seeing that released as we're looking at pixels and pictures on the internet. And then, of course, serotonin and other opiates are released that gives us that release, that pleasure at the end. And as we use pornography, we begin to sensitize our brain, and along with our neural pathways, we begin to set up triggers in our brain that now respond as we are maybe tired or bored or anxious, maybe
Or depressed,
angry,
lonely.
depressed, many things. We use pornography to mask these issues going on. We're self-medicating ourselves. So our brains are trained that when this happens, now I'm going to turn to pornography, and we start that whole cycle over and over again. And as we get farther and farther down that, these habits are more ingrained in us. Things begin to happen in our brain. For instance, dopamine. If we get to a point where we have too much dopamine flooded in our brain, it actually begins to reduce that. It shuts off the dopamine receptors in our brain. And so now what had excited us in the past really no longer excites us. And so now we have to seek out more novel pornography, more deeper, darker, new pornography to just get that same high that we got to at the beginning. And so that's where you see that escalation of porn use, which can go all the way, of course, to acting out in physical ways and adultery and prostitution and so many other issues that come up that lead to the
Well,
things that you're dealing with.
Rob, you make a good point because, once your dopamine high is reduced by regular porn, you go to more, um, I guess, perverse porn and then to child porn, and then a lot of perpetrators will act out on a child from there
Right.
to
Exactly.
increase that. So pornography
Exactly.
plays a big role in child sexual abuse. I know in my case, I was sexually abused for 14 years by my stepfather.
Mm,
And back then we didn't have the internet, but he would use Hustler, he would use
sure.
Playboy. So pornography was used in my abuse. And pornography really distorts God's perfect plan for sex in the covenant of marriage, and it distorts what people think sex should be,
Yes.
and how they should perform, which is so sad. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you talk
Yeah.
about
We
the images. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, I think you're absolutely right there. Um, we deal with churches all the time. We have this conversation. I mean, God designed our sexuality. He designed our desire for our
Mhm.
spouses, and He's designed us to have intimacy, not just in sexual relations, but in our full marriage. And when we begin to use uh, pornography and these types of things, it begins to distort and twist what God designed our sexuality to be. And I think our churches, unfortunately, begin to treat this as well. This is something dirty. This is something wrong, and we give kids, especially, the wrong idea that. That's something that I'm doing wrong, or it's dirty. No, God designed us this way. It's good. It's natural. It's the pornography that is turning and twisting this. I think, Angela, one of the um, probably best examples of this process in that's happening and this damage that's happening, is this issue of erectile dysfunction. If I can talk about that
Yeah, absolutely. We
online,
talk about very bold things on our show.
good, good. We need to. You know, ED was a problem, a small problem back in the early 2000s. They did a study of men 18 to 40 years old. ED was a problem for about 3 to 5% of individuals. Now, today, that same age range, 18 to 40, ED is a problem for about 33 to 35%. So, over a third
Wow.
of our young men are struggling with this. And what they have found is that it's mostly porn related. They actually have created the term PEDS, porn induced erectile dysfunction, and it is centers all around that addictive side, that dopamine side, and all these things are tied together and causing our relationships to struggle. Uh, you know, Guys no longer are aroused by normal sexual intercourse with their spouses, and you can see it in the numbers. 56% of divorces nowadays say it is related to a partner using pornography, and so there's just so many relational issues that it causes and damage in our relationships.
Well,
Um,
it's truly Satan. Satan is, out to kill, steal, and destroy, and that's our marriages, and that's our
yes,
families, and that's our
yes,
purity. Um, and so I just want to speak to our audience for a second. If you're struggling with pornography, we in no way want this to be judgmental. We want this to be a help for you because we know how painful it is, and how painful it is to turn to someone and ask for help. So I'm excited for kind of the next part of our conversation, Rob, where you can kind of dive into the resources, kind of break it down for us because we may have those listening that may aren't as savvy with apps, but break it down to exactly how it works and how they can access your programs. And I know we've got a great promotion going on for Covenant Eyes for our listeners also.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. Let me start with the software itself. because we struggle so much with our digital lives, that's where 90+% of the struggles are coming through and from anymore. um, our software is a great tool to help someone begin to get control over that and to begin to heal as they're doing that. So our software simply just downloads. It's an app on your phone or software on your computer. It downloads. It runs in the background. Um, and like I said earlier, it does two things. One, there's just a filter block that keeps a person from getting access to any known pornographic or illicit site. Um, Filters are good, but they certainly don't do enough. They're a good first guardrail, but there's just too many ways around filters. Our filter or anybody else's, they all kind of work the same way. But that's the first kind of line of defense. The main piece is really the screen accountability software. So our system really it loads it actually is looking at every image or almost every image that comes up on a person's phone. So it doesn't matter how it got there, whether it's an ad or something on the site itself. It's looking at that, and through AI, it's evaluating those images to see whether it's something explicit or something even just suggestive or even just questionable. The whole key to this, though, is through an app called Victory, you set up accountability partners or allies, we call them, or as many allies as you like or need. They have access 24/7 to a report of those images that you're looking at. Now, we don't send everything to them. We send notification if there's anything explicit or even questionable looked at. So your partner gets an instant notification that, hey, your partner right now is looking at something maybe they
I was
shouldn't.
good to
So they
say
can.
that's a hard place to be in if you have to see the images that someone else is looking at, so they just get a notification, they don't get the
Well, they actually
explicit
get the
image.
image, but they are blurred before they leave the person's phone,
Okay,
and they're
that
smaller.
helps.
So they're not triggering. They
Okay,
are enough though to know whether that's a person or not. Um, and they don't get the address of where they're going to, so they can't click on and go
okay,
access that site
okay.
themselves. They'll get just the top line domain of where they're at and the time that it happened. But and they can filter that. They can see all of the images, or they can just be notified of the flagged
So that
images.
accountability partner then can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, buddy, are you struggling?"
Right, exactly. Or
Or,
in
"Hey,
in
sister,
the
are you
app, they can
struggling?"
also set times where they can get together on a regular basis and kind of walk through that. Also in that app, which is important, is there are a number of almost 40 articles written by Christian counselors and therapists, specialists like Covenant Eyes and other ministries that help people understand this issue deeper. Because just our software is a great tool, but it's just a piece in
Mhm.
the recovery. It's not an end all. The answer is Christ here.
Amen.
This is a heart issue. It's a sin issue. We want people to draw closer to Christ. And so a lot of these articles help them begin to understand maybe some of those triggering issues, how our past, our traumas, our abuses factor into this, some of the things you've talked about, um, and really just help educate them and help them to move, like I said, closer to Christ in this issue.
So what kind of, so would this exact same product be used for youth or children for parents, or is there a different, app for parents?
Yeah, we really don't recommend our software for young families.
Okay,
Young families really, parents, they really want to lock down everything. They want to limit all the access. They want to see what kids are doing every step, every keystroke. And there are parental control softwares that would be better for young families.
okay.
Now, when we say though, when kids get to about junior high or high school, we need to begin to shift that to helping educate our kids on how to deal with this, how to be accountable, how to control it, and why. And
Mhm.
so that's where we see most families beginning to use Covenant Eyes with their older kids, where they can begin to walk alongside and teach them how to be accountable. So when they do leave the home, they're prepared to deal with this themselves, and they're already in tune of how to do that. And so that's how our system works.
And what kind of success rate have you seen, with your software?
Well, we certainly we track, and we know that people who use this type of software, whether it's ours or others, they are beginning to not access pornographic sites. We know from psychologists that after about 90 days, it can begin to retrain the brain, and the recidivism is completely down for those that have found freedom. They're less likely to go back and continue this struggle. So on our site, there's a number of those, some of that research and some of that information, but um, we see it in our testimonies. We've had over 1.7 million people use Covenant Eyes, and the testimonies, and many of those are on our sites, of just um, why accountability and why monitoring our use of technology is such a powerful tool.
Well, you're shedding light onto the darkness, and anytime you pull the darkness out and you put light on it, and let someone know they're not alone, and they don't
Yeah,
have to walk through this alone, and to begin to remove the shame. So I think all
yeah,
those are really important parts to healing from a pornography addiction, and when you heal from a pornography addiction, ultimately you're protecting children
it does, and
in a lot of
yeah,
different ways. So,
yeah.
Rob, you were so gracious to give us a special promotion for our Voice Up for the Voiceless viewers and listeners. Can you share your promotion for the next 30 days?
Yeah, yeah. So if you sign up using the link that I think you'll share, you'll receive 30 free days of Covenant Eyes, and it's a good time to do a trial on this, to load it and to check it out and see what it does and what accountability can feel like. And certainly going on from there, I think you'll find it very useful and helpful. But then along with that, there's access to all types of free resources, again, for men, for women, for families, to help you deal with this. Those are free whether you sign up for the service or not,
We'll
and
put
you
some of
can get.
those links. I'll get you to share
Yeah,
some links with them,
excellent.
and we'll put them in the show. So when we have guests on, we always encourage them to give our listeners a voice of inspiration. So I'd like for you to just talk to our audience for the next couple of minutes and just encourage and inspire in this very difficult topic of pornography.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it. Shame is such the big issue with this. Satan loves when we are private and don't bring this to light. When we stay in the dark, Satan loves to just whisper in our ear and to keep us in bondage. We encourage you to step out. Confession, talking with people, being open and honest, that sheds the light on this and frees you to begin to get help. And the encouraging thing is you can recover from any struggle with this. Your brains can be retrained. You can defeat this, and we've seen thousands, millions of people turn away from this, and just that freeingness of having that off your shoulders is just life changing.
It is.
And so I just want to encourage you that the struggles you're having are not permanent. There is hope, and there is a way to find freedom in this.
And it's a stronghold that God wants to heal and can heal. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So if you'll stand by, I'm going to close us out, and I'll come back and chat with you a second.
All right.
All right. We thank you so much for listening to Voice Up for the Voiceless and this really important subject of pornography. And I just want to say if you or someone you know is struggling, please share this podcast with them. And that it is our prayer that you will walk in complete freedom from this. It is a stronghold, but there are so many great resources that could help you break free and truly walk in freedom and not in shame. We love you. We are praying for you. And we thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Angela Williams, and this is Voice Up for the Voiceless. Thank you.